It's good to be the king.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 121 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me as always, Bob and Joseph, and this week's topic is best scene in a Mel Brooks movie. Let's start off by saying it's good to be king, because that's exactly what our focus is on this episode. One of the all-time kings of comedy, Mr. Mel Brooks. We are doing this episode as a tribute to not only celebrate Mel Brooks' great and timeless works, but to also celebrate his 98th birthday, which was a few days ago. We hope he can live on for another 1,902 more years and really become the 2,000-year-old man, but we'll settle for being fortunate enough to live in a time where we've had the opportunity to witness and appreciate this man's genius. Mel Brooks taught us that comedy should push boundaries and that humor should be a form of resistance. He mocked stereotypes, the absurdity of bigotry, and through his influence, irreverence, and fearlessness, he made us look at things through the lens of comedy that nobody else had ever previously done. To us, he's a hero. To others, merely a legend, to quote the man himself. Mel Brooks has always had a simple rule, and that was you can't make a successful comedy if you don't have passion. You have to question the system, the structure, and the behaviors of people through an ideal attention. You don't have to get on your soapbox and shout or be hurtful, harmful, or hateful. You bring people together by making them laugh. You take your jabs through satire and cleverness. You be sharp and you be irreverent. And that was the Mel Brooks way. The best way to ridicule something is with comedy because you can laugh the badness away. He taught us comedy has to be purposeful, it has to have grit, and you cannot be careful. We have been educated on the glory of Mel Brooks and his works through our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles. Everybody in our family were fans. We've quoted him, looked up endless YouTube clips. There is so much to say about the inspiration Mel Brooks has provided us. Unfortunately, some of that comedy has to be edited out. Thank you, Generation Z. This week, Formidable Opponents debate and discuss best Mel Brooks scene. With me, as always, are two guys who enjoy doing two things, podcasting and screwing. Let's just podcast, guys. Bob and Joseph, how are y'all doing?
Hey, Josephus.
Podcast and screwing.
What's up? What's going on? What's going on, podcast world? What's going on?
Episode 121. We're about 111. We're 111 episodes above what we thought we'd get across. So
no shit.
A monumental episode because we're talking about Mel Brooks. Guys, I know you've had a bit of a summer vacation. How have y'all been doing? How was your vacation?
I'm sunburned.
It was good, man. It's been good. Nice little break from, all year work, unlike some people.
Hey, don't get mad at me. Hate the player, don't hate the game, okay?
But no, it's been fun. It was fun. A lot of cool places, a lot of new places and whatnot. Obviously, if you follow our stream, we made our presence known in Houston.
Yeah. Went to an Astros game, checked out a few breweries, had a good time, went to the museum. Great stuff.
Yeah.
And guys, speaking of great time, we've got to enjoy the past week looking up and watching Mel Brooks clips. The movies, the interviews, the talk show interviews, the documentaries. We've been posting what we've been researching. I want to start off by asking you guys, what was your first Mel Brooks film watching experience? Do you remember the first time you discovered a Mel Brooks film?
Yeah, that's easy for me. It was Spaceballs. My grandfather used to live right next door to us. So I used to walk over to his house all the time. He was watching Mel Brooks Spaceballs in like 88, 89, and I caught some of it, and man, I could not stop laughing. Well, first off, he was laughing, so anything he thought was funny, I automatically.
Yeah, he had a great laugh.
Was fun. Yeah, he had a great laugh, and he had a great sense of humor. So if he thought it was funny, man, it must have been hilarious. So that was my first little taste of Mel Brooks, his movies. as I got older, I appreciated Spaceball more. I got more of the jokes, and then it was like Robin Hood Men in Tights, and then I went to the oldies. I saw Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and High Anxiety and all that great stuff. But yeah, Spaceballs, the T-shirt, Spaceballs, the lunchbox. That was my first introduction to Mel Brooks.
I'm pretty sure it was Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'm pretty sure that was the first movie that from him that I saw. Obviously, a hilarious movie in its own right. I still, because it came out in the 90s. And of course, we always talk about how 80s movies were just a little bit funnier, I guess, or there was the 80s humor is different from 90s humors, which I don't think so much, but it was just,
different.
It's different. Yeah. So one of the newer comedies of the early 90s, and it was the first one that I saw. And I just remember it being hilarious. My first, from start to finish. I'm not sure if I knew what Robin Hood was at the time. The first Robin Hood.
I saw the Kevin Costner,
the actual Robin Hood.
Yeah, we saw it with my parents.
This might have been my introduction to Robin Hood, aside from the animated movie.
I think for me, Mel Brooks. His comedy was handed down.
You're old as fuck. You saw his first one in 1954.
The producers. He's gonna say producers.
Yes. His comedy was handed down like a family heirloom, as both of you guys talked about a little bit, which is funny because older generations in our families, they spoke mainly Spanish. But Mel Brooks, his comedy transcended race, background, languages, and even target audiences. My first Mel Brooks film was History of the World Part 1, which came out in 1981. It ran back on HBO when HBO would run like a major feature film 4 or 5 times a week. And I mostly remember the song and dance number for the Spanish Inquisition, which of course led to about 5,000.
That is so you, Randall. Of all the fucking jokes, you remember the Spanish Inquisition, not the Last Supper, not the Hey Josie, not Treasured Bath, the fucking Spanish Inquisition dance.
Which of course led to 5,000 brutal deaths during the consolidation of the monarchy. Anyway, I had no idea that what this terrible thing was, and maybe this isn't the best idea to get your history from a comedian, but years later, he had me looking up the subject matters of the film, so it always stuck with me. And, guys, we're talking about specific scenes in Mel Brooks movies, but what do you think is his best film? What's his most rewatchable film?
I got to go Blazing Saddles. I think.
I was going to say, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
There really isn't, but I think the previous maybe 2 generations before us, maybe even 3, that know this movie probably religiously like we do. So I'd say, and of course, there's a lot of hilarious lines in this movie. Of course, there's a different time, so a lot of it can't be repeated out loud. You shouldn't repeat any of it out loud. But it's the most recognizable to me. I think if you think Mel Brooks movies, and my mind immediately goes to Blazing Saddles. I have a Waco Kid T-shirt. I'm looking to get a few more Sheriff's
coming.
Everybody knows that scene.
That's Headley.
We haven't even begun to get into the Mel Brooks quotes from that movie. I guess we will once we get into honorable mentions and stuff. But yeah,
I could watch that any day. I can watch that at least once a week.
Let me add a little onto that, Joe. So I love what you said earlier, Rand. You mentioned our parents and grandparents, and they mostly spoke Spanish, and
they spanked us. You're right,
and they spanked the shit out of us. Fucking shit, they spanked the shit out of us.
Both of y'all have screwed up.
I know. It's been a while. Anyway,
11.
11 and spanking.
So growing up, my grandfather. So my grandfather on my mother's side, he's the one that introduced me to Spaceballs, and he was into comedies and all that stuff. My grandfather on my father's side, Rand will know, he's related to him as well. He mostly spoke Spanish.
Yeah,
and he had some broken English, but he mostly spoke Spanish. My uncle Ronnie one time told me a funny story that they came home. They were there hanging out at the house, but they were hanging out outside, and they walked in and they were there in the kitchen, getting something to drink, getting something to eat, and they heard my grandfather laughing hysterically in the living room, and they're like, "What? We've never heard him laugh that much." And so they walk into the living room, and lo and behold, my grandfather, who doesn't speak any English, is sitting there watching Blazing Saddles, and he's laughing his ass off at that dumb, like they're eating beans and farting and burping. And how about some more beans, Mr. Taggart? I say he had enough. Like he's just dying laughing at, and he tells the boys like, come sit with me. This movie is hilarious. And he said, I sat down with him and he laughed the entire movie. English, Spanish, doesn't matter. Comedy's comedy. And I think that movie is a great example of a joke. I think he nailed it on that one. It's one of my favorites. I actually watched it today, and I was on Rand before we started. I wanted to write down a couple of quotes from each movie, stuff I remember and stuff I may have missed. And I was just note after note and joke after joke and line after line with this movie. Hilarious. Still one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. For me, though, the most rewatchable is Young Frankenstein. You get that cast all together. You get the Gene Wilder, of course, Peter Boyle, Marty Friedman, Terry Garr, Madeline Kahn, who I absolutely love. I think she is one of the funniest actresses in any Mel Brooks movie. I think she's just fucking amazing. That movie, we watch it during Halloween, the month of October. I watch it at least 4 or 5 times a year. I watched it yesterday, and it's beginning and end, and I still laugh hysterically at all the lines and all the funny scenes and everything that they do that I know the line by heart, and I still laugh to it. So I think Young Frankenstein is the way to go.
Bob, you said there's no wrong answer. There is a wrong answer. Dracula Dead and Loving It. You gotta get rid of that one. Maybe
nothing you can do to stop me. And he pokes him in the eyes. Ow!
I do have to agree. Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles was initially screened in a room full of Warner Brother executives, and nobody laughed. And so, I mean, how uncomfortable was that campfire farting scene in that theater when nobody laughs at it? So what Mel Brooks did is he quickly set up a subsequent screening for the studio employees, and it was a hit for us regular folks, right? Like, it's blue-collar comedy at its best. Fart jokes and all these other things that just go on that our sophomore humor sort of, undergirds and attunes to. I'll get more into the message of the film when I get to my selection, spoiler alert. But what did this movie have? It was a Western, the first official farting ever heard on screen. Think of all the great fart scenes we've witnessed over time. This could be a future episode. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Dumb and Dumber, Caddyshack, Step Brothers, The Nutty Professor, Rain Man. Think of all the farting scenes we've heard. This was the patient zero for that.
All the scenes in Rain Man you're picking, you're talking about the farting scene?
This movie started it all because Mel Brooks made the observation that every old Western he'd watch, cowboys consume black coffee and beans. When those two things shake hands, you're inevitably going to rip ass, right? So everyone was amazing in this film, right? And hilarious. A horse gets punched. Dom DeLuise doing the French mistake. There's no weak links.
Doing the French mistake. Voila. Not in the face. I love that scene.
I work for Mel Brooks. Boo. There's no weak links in this movie. And to think Richard Pryor was originally cast as the lead, I'll talk more about that later.
Oh, man,
this movie could have been even... Well, I mean, I love Cleavon a little, and I preferred him, but we'll get to that during my selection.
That's an interesting... No, I'm just saying, that's an interesting conversation because it's Richard Pryor. And, of course, we all know Richard Pryor. He's extremely funny, hilarious comedian in his own right and whatnot. I don't know, man. Maybe it's because we've seen it so many times. Maybe, right?
I don't know if he could play a cowboy.
That would have been weird, right? Maybe. I don't know.
I think it would have been hilarious, but
yeah.
But I think it would have been weird if he had been in, because Sheriff Bart, the actor, like he could play. He was a stage actor. He looks the part of a cowboy.
Isn't it weird to see him playing like a henchman, bad guy in Superman? Like it's.
And that one sucked. Yeah.
I mean, it's Richard Pryor and whatnot, and it's awesome, but I don't know if it would have. I'm sure
it was funny as hell, and hear no evil, see no evil.
Yeah. Anytime you teamed him with Gene Wilder, he was great. Yeah. Silver Streak, Bustin' Loose.
That's true. It would have been another Gene Wilder thing as well, but
he's done some great stuff.
Maybe it's because we watched it so many times, like I said.
Yeah.
I know he contributed to the writing, so we still had the Richard Pryor DNA in that movie. So, I mean, just a fantastic actor. I do want to talk more about Richard Pryor later, but I want to ask you guys now, what is Mel Brooks' legacy in comedy?
He's going to forever be remembered, in my opinion, in my mind, as one of the smartest, the funniest, the most influential comics and writers and directors of all time, man. I think he's untouchable that he was able to do it for over 70 years.
Yes.
Just released History of the World Part 2, this series on Hulu. Like, I don't know if anybody could top him as far as his comedy and his writing. It's really amazing, man. It really is amazing. I mean, like the way he's able to connect everyone together. Like we said, our grandfather who couldn't even speak English connected the jokes, the quips, his fart jokes, his vulgar jokes, his sexual jokes, the way he makes fun of everyone and stereotypes. He fucking jokes about Hitler. Like, and I love the thing I love the most, though, that he's able to do so fucking well. And maybe you can add on to this, Rando. He's able to make the dumb joke, but it's a joke that's
Bingo.
It's so dumb that it's fucking genius, that it's so hilarious. Like, not too many people can pull off a simple dumb joke like that, and the way he writes them and the way he adds them into his movies, they're just so like memorable and right on and like perfect. And there's not too many comedians that can do, not too many actors or that can pull that off either. So I think he's definitely one in a million.
I think he'll go down as one of, excuse me,
Joseph's crying, folks.
Apologize. No, I think he'll go down as one of the best. To be honest with you, I don't think we have a lot of these spoof movies. You know, the Not Another Teen movies, the whole Scary Movie, first bulk of the Scary Movie franchises when the Wayans brothers were running it. It's taking a movie similar that so Scary Movie. You're taking from. From Scream, spoofing Scream. We got Spaceballs spoofing Star Wars. I don't think we have things like that. Those funny movies that we saw in the late '90s, early 2000s, without things that Mel Brooks put together and put out and wrote. Nice as Mel Brooks is, I believe he's beloved by many in not only his field, but in just in Hollywood in general. As nice as he is, I love that he wasn't afraid to. You gotta laugh sometimes, I guess. You can't be afraid to laugh, and we saw that in these movies. Make fun of pop culture news and things going on in the world, and laugh at yourself. And I think he has that huge influence on what comedy, or at least comedians that we grew up watching, try to do. And I know they can't really follow that same path these days. It might be a little bit different, but it's a whole generation of comedians that saw things that Mel Brooks was doing and took it and made it their own.
If you called him the funniest writer or creator that ever lived, I don't think I'd argue with you. He is rare because he crosses generations. Here's an example. Put your grandparents, parents, yourself, and your kids in a room. You would be hard-pressed to find someone they'd all find funny, but everyone can agree on Mel Brooks. Your grandparents would not understand Adam Sandler. They think he's some weirdo or whatever. Your kids might not understand Eddie Murphy outside of Donkey, but everyone will find Mel Brooks funny. He's so natural and effortless. What an incredible gift. And you pointed it out, Bob. He makes the dumb jokes funny. He makes the smart jokes funny. He makes people all around him better. I mean, for a kid who started off by getting into trouble doing Boris Karloff impressions at school, he was irritating and interrupting his teachers. Joseph, you wouldn't know that. You look like you were well-behaved and pleasant as a kid.
He was a quiet kid. He was a quiet kid. I was kind of a talker, but I was a good kid.
Yes, you were a similar nuisance, as was I. So, so we kind of get what that background is. To know that gift in combination with his sweetness and sincerity, this is a man who put together a Blu-ray box set of his wife in her movies so the world could see her best work, the great Anne Bancroft, as we mentioned before. That's love. I mean, he created sharp and irreverent comedies, a best screenplay for the producers, and when he won the best screenplay at the Oscars, all he did was talk about Gene Wilder.
Yep, Gene Wilder. Thank you, Gene Wilder. Thank you, Gene Wilder. Thank you, Gene. That was crazy that he mentioned it 3 times.
I mean, incredible that he's so humble. And if you ask me what celebrity I would love to have a meal with, I would say Mel Brooks. Joseph, I think you'd say Aubrey Plaza. And
it's got to be kosher.
And Bob, you probably say C.J. Stroud, but I would pick Mel Brooks.
I love C.J. Stroud. He is him.
So, guys, just an incredible amount of memories that Mel Brooks has provided us. Some great scenes, wonderful scenes. Let's go on to our honorable mentions. Bob, what do you got for your honorable mentions?
Okay, I'll try to keep it short. What I'm gonna do is, I was talking to you about earlier. I'm gonna try to do one per, like, my favorite movie. The Blazing Saddles. I'll mention this one. Anybody got a dime? Somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes. Like, I love that scene.
The toll booth, yeah.
So the toll booth, so fucking funny, so simple, but that scene just had me dying. And then I'll mention one more, the priest. Oh, the priest pay heed to this good book and what it has to say, and they shoot the fucking Bible. He's like, "Hey, son, you're on your own. Fuck this." I love that. Young Frankenstein, the Frau Blucher. Oh my god, dude, I could not stop. Cloris Leachman again, one of my all-time favorite women in comedy and acting. She is so funny. Like whenever they'd say her name, the horses would neigh. Frau Blucher, and they would neigh in the background. She'd give that look on her face. Fuck, I mean, just something so stupid and so funny. It's just amazing. Spaceballs, the line that got me. I hear she gives great helmet. Oh my god, that just not. Oh my, that's a line I quote still to this. I bet she gives great helmet. Oh fucking hilarious. That's the same combination an idiot would have on his luggage. Like, oh man, that movie, Ludicrous, Speed, Go. Jesus Christ, that movie in itself, I couldn't pick a scene. And Robin Hood, Joseph. What is the one we always say? Hey, I bet. I hate that guy. Me and a group of friends have been quoting that line since we saw it, like in high school, nonstop. A funny, quick, stupid story. My wife saw that Creative Little Pill, saw that movie for the first time a week ago. Robin Hood Men in Tights. She had never seen, big Mel Brooks fan, but she had never seen that movie. And when that scene came on where he's saying, good morrow, and the kid yells, hey, I bet. She was like, oh, shit, that's where you got it from. I was like, yes, that annoying. She was like, oh, my God, I knew it. Like, she didn't know where it came from. History of the World, Part 1, I'll mention the last one. I love the, hey, Josephus, hey, motherfucker. I love that one. And one scene that had me laughing, not a lot of people talk about it, when they say, like, stop the man. Do you know what the punishment for a slave that strikes a Roman citizen? And one guy says, torture. No. Crucifixion, no. They shove a living snake up his ass, and he's like, oh, that's kinky. But no, that's not the right answer. They shove a living snake up his ass. And the Roman soldier is like, what? Only Mel Brooks could have a line like that in a movie that just so like out of left field and be hilarious. But there's a lot more. There's a lot I have written down, but I'll stick with those. Joseph, what do you got, man?
The thing with the History of the World Part 1, just real quick, was it is what it is. It's the movie. It's like different tellings of different, moments in history. So it was kind of hard to pick a scene from that. But anyway, one of my favorites, even though it's a quick scene, is two actually. Moses coming down with the 3 tablets, and Moses, kid, did you hear me? And then like I bring you 15.
He drops
10 commandments. And then another one from that was when the chariot or the carriage approached the water, and Moses is there and lifts his hands, and the water parts so they can cross. And once they cross, you learn he's being held up. Somebody's being
robbed. That's why his hands are up.
That's why his hands are up. They keep him up. I have the bridge encounter in Robin Hood Men in Tights because I always thought that was a funny scene. Was like I said, the first movie.
We don't pay no toes. We don't eat no rolls.
We don't eat no rolls. Don't let my name fool you in real life. I'm very big.
I think one of the best intros to any movie was Mongo. Alex Karras, who was a defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, comes out. He's riding a steer into town, and then he punches a horse and knocks the horse out.
You can't park that horse there. Mocos.
I love that scene. I also love the Candygram for Mongo scene. It is a take on Bugs Bunny.
The sheriff's arrival too. I mean,
the sheriff's arrival.
Everybody knows that scene.
Oh man, fucking hilarious, dude.
He said the sheriff is near.
The sheriff is near. Yeah.
By the way, that's not what he says, but
I know.
Well, we don't actually know what he says because it's always the church bell always rings.
Gabby Johnson. The eating beans around the campfire. Of course, we talked about that before. I love John Hurt's cameo in Spaceballs, where the alien pops out of his chest. It's just
not again.
Also, the Planet of the Apes scene is pretty funny.
Oh no, we've gone to shit. Spaceballs. Oh no.
I love the putting on the Ritz number in Young Frankenstein. I thought that was hilarious.
Can we talk about that one? Can we talk about that real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of that scene. And doing a little research and watching videos, that scene was Gene Wilder's baby. Like, he was like, I wrote this scene. We're going to do this scene. And Mel Brooks was like, no fucking way. No way. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We don't want it in the movie. So they did this. They made the scene. They're like, I'm not going to keep it. And they're like, you have to keep it. Go, we're going to show it to like they always show the movie beforehand. They showed that scene to a group of people, and Mel Brooks told them, if one person hates this scene or makes a negative comment, it's out. And Gene Wilder's like, okay, it's fine. If one person makes a negative comment, it's out. They put on the scene. The audience laughed. The audience loved it. And he's like, all right, you're right, Gene. I made a mistake. It's the best scene. It's a funny scene. It's a funny scene of the movie. I thought that was hilarious how he's like, all right, dude, Gene was right. Gene was right. But yeah, it's a funny scene. It really is. It's a funny scene.
And it kind of inspired a lot of his song and dance numbers in future films as well. I also love the final battle on the studio lot in Blazing Saddles. Going back to Blazing Saddles, Buddy Bazaar. I know that they had auditioned several actors, and Mel Brooks settled on Dom DeLuise. But Dom DeLuise delivers like a fireball performance in like the 3 minutes he's on screen. Wrong.
It's with the damn megaphone.
I love how he abuses the dancers, but when he gets punched, they all come to his defense.
Sounds like steam escaping. Fucking funny,
I had Robin Hood Men in Tights. Unlike other Robin Hoods, I can speak in an English accent, so why should the people listen to you?
I have a mole.
I also had Moses dropping one of the 15 commandment tablets. That scene wasn't supposed to be in the movie. That they used the studio, I guess you could say the studio set where they had the caveman thing in the beginning of the movie. And somebody recommended, hey, this looks like a mountainside. And Mel Brooks came up with that Moses scene at the end. So that scene was actually not in the script. It was added later on in the movie. To me, it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie. And then lastly, I had when Max tries to calm down Leopold and the producers. I'm wet. I'm hysterical. And I'm wet. So, I mean, Gene Wilder, just every time he collaborated with Mel Brooks, it was just fucking magic.
I think a question for the end, we'll have time to think about it, I guess, while we talk about is what was his funniest character that he played himself? Like I think
President Scrooge,
the governor. I think the governor in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, the governor was hilarious. The affairs of state must take place over the affairs of state. I didn't get a run by that guy. You watch your ass.
He played 3 people in Blazing. Didn't he play the chief?
And then
he played Hitler, right?
Take a walk. They're darker than us.
I mean, there's a bunch of. You gotta. I know you have to try to think about it if you can at the end of the show.
We got to think of like best cameo too. Best cameo. He had a lot of. What can I mention? What I didn't mention one. And speaking of cameo, Gene Hackman in Young Frankenstein. He plays the blind man. Yeah. He's like drops the soup. I love that one. He lights him on fire and the monster takes off. And he's like, wait. I was gonna make espresso. funny fucking line. Dude.
I also forgot, and I have to mention because you said Dom DeLuise meeting with Don Giovanni. The Don Giovanni scene.
Dom DeLuise.
I understand what you're saying. Oh, the cotton balls.
incredibly hilarious. We're gonna get to our selections now, guys. So I'm up first. So my selection for best Mel Brooks scene or best scene in a Mel Brooks movie is the Waco Kid meets Bart in Blazing Saddles. Mel Brooks wrote Blazing Saddles out of anger at white corruption, racism, and Bible-thumping bigotry. So 50 years later, luckily, none of that exists anymore. This film's premise is simple. In order to ruin a Western town, a corrupt politician appoints a black sheriff whom he knows the idiots of this town would reject, but the sheriff would end up promptly becoming his most formidable adversary. So after adjusting for inflation, this is the 4th highest R-rated grossing movie. I'm sorry, the 4th highest grossing R-rated film at the domestic box office after The Exorcist, The Godfather, and Beverly Hills Cop. And we talked about Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was originally cast in this movie as the lead role as Sheriff Bart, but he had to be replaced. Brooks was unable to secure financing for the film due to Pryor's controversial reputation, leading to him being replaced by Cleavon Little. And of course, Richard Pryor was also replaced in History of the World Part 1 because he had burned himself. So Richard Pryor was 0 for 2 in appearing in these movies with Mel Brooks. I would have loved to have seen Wilder and Pryor in this one. We got them together in Silver Streak, Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Another You. But Cleavon Little, I don't know, guys. He brings a sympathetic charm and a screen handsomeness that Pryor didn't have. And we talked about it a little bit. Were you guys bothered by the Cleavon Little casting? Or would you rather have had Pryor?
No, after watching it the first time, I wouldn't. And again, after watching it over and over and over again, I wouldn't have it any other way. I can't see it.
I agree. I like like the premise of the movie, they're making fun of like the old westerns, you know what I mean? And I just couldn't see, as funny as Sheriff Bart is, I couldn't see Richard Pryor pulling off that sheriff look, the riding a horse, the playing the cowboy and being like funny. Like, I don't know if it would have worked. I mean, it could have worked because Mel Brooks can make anything work, but I don't know if it would have worked in that scenario. I would have loved him in History of the World Part 1 because, I mean, that movie itself was just so joke after joke and out there and funny and sexual and hilarious. Like, I think he would have been great in that movie. I just don't see him as Sheriff Bart.
I think with Richard Pryor, he's too commanding of a presence. Like, he is when you listen to his stand-up comedy, he's very acerbic and very strong. And you needed that vulnerability for the sheriff because there's some very, like, sentimental scenes when Sheriff Bart is like, why do these people hate me? And I'm just trying to help them. I don't think Pryor could pull that off. I think if you call Pryor the names that were being called, Pryor would have smacked you or beat the shit out or told you something back. So I think the believability, he would have said that. So I think the believability factor rests more with Cleavon Little. And I think it helped that Little spent a little time with Gene Wilder since they were both stage actors in the beginning of their careers. And Wilder acted as a sort of tutor and a mentor for him. So I think that connection even made it the bond even greater on screen. And we saw that. And this scene is a simple scene, guys, the one I'm talking about. It tells you everything about what you need to know about these characters, excuse me. Jim, aka the Waco Kid, is down on his luck. He's a down on his luck has-been. It exemplifies what type of Sheriff Bart is and what he could be for this town. It's the first time in this film black and white characters aren't at odds or aren't defining each other by race other than Wilder's character's initial shock. They're talking, they're getting along, they seem like old friends. There's a great story about getting shot in the ass, and there's some great physical comedy too. So I just think it's a very sweet and genuine scene, but really, there is a paradox that contradicts the way the entire town treats Bart. And this down on this luck loser, because he's the only sensible resident in this town. He's the only one that sees Bart for what he can be and who he is instead of the color of his skin. And that's what makes it so powerful. You get this compassionate Bart who, despite all the racism and bigotry thrown at him throughout this movie, he's sympathetic towards Jim. He sits and he listens, and he's the one that's going through the shit, and he doesn't know what Jim's all about. There's a sweet follow-up scene where Jim gently coaxes a laugh out of Bart when he's about at his wit's end. It's a genuine laugh, and it's a blooper that they kept in. Now, the funniest scenes in this movie, they're all with Harvey Korman and Slim Pickens, Hedley Lamar and Taggart. I mean, those guys.
Real song, man. Dang, Mr. Lamar, you use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
And of course, Mongo, Buddy Bazaar, and Lily Von Stoop. They're all clutch in this movie. And I can't talk about their scenes without keeping a straight face. And we're just gonna sit, go back and forth with the quotes. But the initial meeting between Bart and the Waco Kid is funny. It's got two of the best lines in the movie. A man drink like that and don't eat, he's going to die. When?
Great. Oh my God. Greatest little soft.
Just a little delivery. Yeah. Delivery. And like he has a way of Gene Wilder with like looking off in the distance with those crystal clear, like blue eyes, like sad eyes. Like when?
I remember the first time I saw that movie and that scene when it just out of nowhere. When?
Gene Wilder could do
out laughing.
Gene Wilder could do more with one word in those eyes than most actors can do with a monologue. I mean, he's just incredible. And another line that we all quote a lot. What do you like to do? Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw. Let's play chess.
Let's play chess. Let's play chess. He responded real quick.
Well, let's play chess.
So to wrap up, guys,
concerned and all.
This scene exemplifies everything I think of when I think of Mel Brooks. It's funny. It's sweet. The acting Gene Wilder does with his eyes is incredible. All the racist interactions Bart has encountered, we see a connection between two people who aren't defining each other by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I love this scene and I love this movie. Guys, what are your thoughts about this scene?
Only you could turn Blazing Saddles into Remember the Fucking Titans. Way to go, Randall. Jesus Christ. Even Mel Brooks would have been, hey, this fucking guy. I think it's a great scene. Of all the funny scenes, there's a lot of funny scenes. I think that I see why you chose it. But like of all the funny scenes that are in there, I think there's a lot of better, funnier scenes. Not that this is a bad scene. I love that play chess screw. I love that little bastard shot me in the ass. Like I think that's funny. You know, him getting into the story or you thinking that much of it. That's okay, man. I like that. I just love more of the scenes in this movie. Sorry, Harvey Korman, like I said, in Slim Pickens, they steal the fucking show. Harvey Korman steals the show in this. That's Headley. He steals the fucking show in this movie. Any scene that you chose of him, like it's just a hangman hanging a man in his horse. Like any one of those scenes, like one of the funniest ones that I could think of. That if you had chose Randy, I would have just given up. I would have quit right off the bat. It's when they're interviewing. They're like interviewing all these thugs, pugs, nitwits, halfwits. Take this down. And what's his name? Taggart's trying to find a pen. Can you repeat that, sir? He goes in a long list of people that he wants and Methodists. And I love that scene, or the scene where he's like, he has all these guys, like he has a lineup of all these bad thugs that he wants to invade the town with, and he has like these bad cowboys, and then it's like Nazis, and then it's Ku Klux Klan as the fuckers on Harley Davidsons, like the Hells Angels. He has like guys on Camelback. It's hilarious. And there's one dude that comes up to him with the chewing gum larceny, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Chewing gum online? Did you bring enough for everybody?" I didn't know there was gonna be so many fucking shoots. Like such an outlandish, stupid fucking joke of a scene that's just perfect. I really do like the scene you picked, dude. I just think Headley, any scene that you had chosen with Headley Lamar, that's Headley, would have been just over the top amazing, because I think that guy is just as sweet and perfect as Gene Wilder is for that role. Just the same thing with Sheriff Bart with Clavon Little. Headley Lamar, he's
Harvey
just
Korman, yes.
Yeah, Harvey Korman is just, he's perfect in the movie. He's I mean, he steals the show. He's just too funny.
I really, really like this selection, and I like what you said about the extra scenes, the follow-up scenes that we get between them, and this friendship. Now
you're gonna say left side, strong side. Ching out. Do you remember the Titans?
No, I think it adds to the whole movie, and I think that's why, like I say, like it's just not just a funny movie; it's a good movie. Anyway, how did we really come to this decision? Because I also, as much as I enjoy this scene, and I think it's hilarious, and then we were just talking about it, the whole delivery of the whole introduction to the Waco Kid and whatnot, I also find just as funny, and I was just talking about it, the Harvey Korman and Mel Brooks scene where he's having him sign all the paperwork, and he's as the governor, and he's just kind of the whole paddle ball thing, and this was defective.
I was gonna warp one.
I got a warped one. And
think of your secretary,
the harum thing. Work. Hey, boy, have a good night's rest. I mean, that whole scene, I also think, because yes, Korman and Brooks together were extremely funny as two, just as much as Gene Wilder and what's his name?
Clavon Little.
Clavon Little. It's really just nitpicking at this point. Obviously, memorable scene. Are we awake? Depends. Are we black?
It's not. It's the nicest scene between. It's probably not the funniest scene was.
No, of course, it's very funny. It's very funny. Don't take anything away from it. It's funny.
The most memorable scene, the quote is, where are the white women at?
Yeah, where the white women at?
And then they're signing the papers, and
told you to wash your hands after cross burning. See, it's coming off.
He licks his over.
So
I mean, what a classic!
I mean, you picked a very funny scene, but there are so many in this movie. Like
even like the stupid something like Harvey Korman at the very end when he's trying to get into the movie. He's like, "Student," and the guy's like, "Nope, you pain in the ass." He gets all pissed off. Tries to get away with a student ID. Get the fuck out of here!
How did he do all those stunts with such small feet? I mean, Harvey Korman is like, oh man, he's hitting 100 miles an hour in this one, man. He's incredible. He's probably the MVP of the film. But I'm telling you, a lot of people who haven't watched this movie, please watch this movie. Pause this podcast now, because we just threw 50 references that your people who haven't watched this movie like, what the hell are they laughing about?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Watch this movie. It is one of the funniest comedies of all time. But we're going to move on to another funny comedy. Bob, what do you got for us?
I love Mel Brooks. He's probably one of my favorite directors, writers of all time. I love all of his movies, but the one I've just grown a huge attachment to is Young Frankenstein. And the one scene that fits the mold for me is Sedative. It's such a hilariously simple scene. You know, that take it. Gene Wilder, Peter Boyle, Marty Feldman, like we said, Terry Garr. They're all in this scene, and it's such a simple and dumb and genius scene. That's like only Mel Brooks can pull this off. Like we mentioned it before, only he can pull off such a. It's so simple and so dumb that it's genius. That so in the scene, the monster turns and starts choking Dr. Frankenstein, Gene Wilder, and he's like unable to complete a sentence. He's like, please give him the, and he can't get a sentence off, so he decides to do charades. So Igor and Inga are there, and he's doing charades with them, and he's like, okay, you know, first syllable sounds like, and they're like, said, okay, great, right? Second syllable is a small word, okay, so said, and then he was like, sounds like, and he's doing like this gesture, give him a sedative, and he's like, no, that's not the right answer. And then Inga's finally like, oh, sedative, and she grabs a shot and gives Frankenstein's monster the shot, and he falls down on the operating table, and Gene Wilder lays on top of his chest, and he's like out of breath, and you could see the anger, and only Gene Wilder could pull this shit off because he used those eyes, man. We've mentioned it before. Could be so sad or it's so telling with his eyes. And with his angry eyes and the shock looked on his face, not even staring at the other actors, he's staring kind of at the belly of the monster. He's like, sedative. So fucking pissed off and angry, and it's so dumb. And I know, like, there's no way I could have done that justice, but that scene is just so hilarious. And every single time I watch it, like, I crack up laughing. Like, it's just so damn funny. The scene continues on, and you know, Dr. Frankenstein, Gene Wilder's asking Igor, like, not Igor, well, they were wrong, weren't they? He asked him, you know, what brain was that? Oh, Abby something. Abby what? Abby normal. And then he starts losing his shit. You mean to tell me I put an abnormal brain? So the scene continues on. It's another funny, very quotable. Joseph, I'm sure, has an Abby normal shirt somewhere. If he doesn't have it, you need to get one, Joseph. But that sedative line, sedative, it's just so fucking funny. And there's so many scenes. And I know we mentioned there's so many funny lines and so many memorable lines from this movie that's just it was hard to pick a scene, but this one just has always stuck with me. It's either sedative or I'm saying, wait, where are you going? I was gonna make espresso. Those are the two lines I say constantly. Anytime, and like I say it to my wife all the time, where are you going? I was gonna make espresso. So I love this, dude. I love this scene. What do y'all think of the scene?
I really do. I really do like this scene. I really do love this movie. I know, but you mentioned another top one would be the Frankenstein and the Blind Man. Yeah.
Oh no, Blind Man.
What's his name?
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman. Excuse me. Quick notes. One that we didn't mention in, although it's just a small line tune. What's that werewolf? their wolf.
Their castle.
Completely forgot to mention that.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention, like, with the doctor, like a brandy.
He wanted me to.
Ovaltine.
Igor, I mean, the performance of Igor is hilarious. The whole thing. It's not necessarily the smartest joke, but it's so fucking funny. Charades to get the point across. Like, said 3 words. Sounds like how the fuck do you even have time to do all this? I mean, it's just the way he wrote this and the delivery from obviously Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks were gold together. 2 great. Obviously, we already talked about Blazing Saddles at length, but 2. I mean, why not put him in another one? I loved how it happened twice. They did it, the whole charades thing twice, and the Abby normal. Abby something.
I will
really
not
great
be
pick. Like Bob mentioned too, like, of course, and we said with Blazing Saddles, another movie where multiple scenes can be selected. It's Mel Brooks. Ren?
Excellent scene. I couldn't stop laughing, rewatching the scene over and over. I think it was Mel Brooks who said about Marty Feldman. He said this in an interview. Marty Feldman, who played Igor, his eyes are so far apart that if you ever played hide and seek with him, you would just have to stand right in front of him. I mean, those prominent misaligned eyes, they were meant for comedy. What I love about Mel Brooks is that he creates the films that he loves, or he recreates the genres he grew up watching and just makes them as absurd and hilarious as he wants them to be. He's an expert spoof. This is a great scene.
you have these four brilliant comedic talents on screen. Everyone has a purpose, and the subtleties in the scene, like when Wilder shouts sedatives, he just with that one word, he's saying, "You stupid motherfucker," he's beating him down just with that one word. Or when Igor first says sedatives, Wilder's character throws his hands up in the air at the monster, like look, this is who I'm working with.
Yeah.
He's shrugging in exasperation at the guy who was strangling him. I mean, that is comedy gold. In a good movie, and this is a brilliant movie, but in a good movie, every action needs a reason. There was no damn reason for Igor to just randomly light a cigarette at that particular moment. Turns on the cigarette, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? For no reason, right? A brain transfusion just happened, and we are witnessing a miracle. Let me just casually have a smoke and have the fire from the match scare this month.
It was the 70s.
That's true. And actually, Marty Feldman did die of lung cancer. He would smoke like 5 packs a day, I read. Marty Feldman as Igor, so childlike and innocent. Terry Garr. Let's talk about Terry Garr, because we haven't talked too much about her in this scene. How gorgeous is she in this movie?
She's beautiful.
The fact that she's in
Elevate me. Here. Fucking love that movie. Yeah, she's beautiful.
I mean,
Randy, hold on. Can I mention something about Terry Garr?
Okay.
Because I've asked a few people and everybody looked at me like I was a crazy asshole. Mom and Dad Save the World. Have you seen Mom and Dad Save the World? Do you know exactly what I'm talking about?
Is that the one with John Ritter? No, is that John Ritter?
No, that's Stay Tuned. But no, it's the other dude.
Okay.
It was the bad guy from it's the dad from Beetlejuice. He's in it with
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I mentioned that, and my wife blinked at me. Joseph was like, "Nope." Like everybody I've asked, they're like, "I have no idea what movie that is." Like, yeah, dude.
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
it's from 1992. I'm looking it up now. Yeah. Terry Garr. Okay, yeah, I know exactly.
And John Lovitz is like the bad guy.
Yeah, John Lovitz.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a stupid movie. Okay, I'm sorry. I got to bring it up.
It exists. Yeah, I mean Terry Garr. As I mentioned, gorgeous in this movie. I remember one of my first childhood crushes was Terry Garr and Mr. Mom. She was 22 years older than me. I had no business admiring her the way I did. She was also in some TV underwear ads for Hanes. I never wanted a program not to come back so badly. I think Terry Garr was my childhood crush. Not Tila from He-Man like any other normal kid. Terry Garr and Adrienne Balboa all day, baby. Okay.
Madeline Kahn is still beautiful to me. I love that woman.
She's great. She's great.
She's beautiful and hilarious, and she is like one of the best.
Abby Normal, what a great joke. I love when Igor sits down, because he sits down on the floor first, right?
No, up here. Oh, thank you.
The first thing he asks is, "You won't be angry?" He knows he's about to get his ass kicked. One thing I kept coming back to after watching these clips is Gene Wilder's speaking voice. What a great speaking voice. Does he not have the most melodic speaking voice? And when he ramps up, he's a tremendous shouter. I don't know of any other actor that could speak so sweetly and then be so just loud and intimidating the way Gene Wilder uses his voice.
It's like a Willy Wonka. Like he does that perfectly. Willy Wonka, he's so sweet and innocent singing. Then he does that crazy thing where he raises his voice and he's singing like he's having a meltdown or a freak out. Like he's just an amazing. He does that too in The Producers, where he loses his shit over his blue blankie. His blue blankie. Yeah. So he's just amazing, dude. He's just amazing.
I love when Igor gets choked out and they're kind of reenacting the scene again for a little bit.
Give him the what huge knockers. Oh, thank you.
This scene go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't mention this one, and I know we're going to probably move on, but I have to mention this scene. Somebody who stole the fucking scene and stole a lot of scenes in the movie. The detective with the wooden arm and the fucking eye patch, or the monocle and the eye. I fucking love when he's throwing the darts, he sticks the darts in the dartboard and runs back. The funniest thing that he does, he has his arm like he's like, "Until we meet again," and he's trying to say goodbye, and his wooden arm won't go down. And as he walks away, he's like talking shit to his hand, like under his breath. You're like, "What the fuck?" Like if it's like a dog or a little kid, and he's trying to. Sorry, that guy's really hilarious scene.
That's the thing about Mel Brooks, is that he writes supporting characters as well as he does the lead actor. So there's no wasted lines. There's no wasted actions. And speaking of actions, I wonder how long this scene took to film, because there's a lot of physicality and there's 4 people in this scene. They had to have done more than 10 takes. How can you not break up laughing when Peter Boyle's choking you out and they're playing charades? I mean, it's incredibly, this scene takes everyone involved to be at their best and it's most brilliant. So
This is a funny scene. This is definitely a top 5 Mel Brooks scene. If you want to laugh at it, please put it on YouTube. You'll get a quick laugh out of a great 2-minute scene. Joseph, what do you got for us?
Actually, I think there's a pretty funny outtakes clip on YouTube you can watch from this movie. Somebody I think somebody actually uploaded the outtakes. So go check that out.
For sure.
I selected Surrounded by Assholes, I guess you can call it. I'm surrounded by a-holes scene from Spaceballs. Not the longest scene. If you add the whole extra stuff with the king and Pullman's character,
Lone Star.
Lone Star. Chinga.
Your favorite beer, Joseph? Come on, man.
Star. If you add all that, mainly just to stick to the Lord Helmet part. Anyway, so if you don't know about the scene for some reason, go check out this movie. Dark Helmet is tracking Princess Vespa and orders his henchmen to fire a warning shot across her nose, the nose of the ship. This is a Star Wars parody film. The henchman fires twice and actually hits her twice, and then continues to fire laser shots basically in all areas of the ship. And obviously Lord Helmet gets pissed, and this is where I think the hilarity of this scene begins. So immediately, if you don't know anything about this movie, Lord Helmet, played by Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis.
I am
Joseph's just like, it's okay.
Say it again. Yeah, this is 3 weeks. So if you don't know anything about this movie,
it's still better than the debates. Keep going.
Lord Helmet is played by Rick Moranis, and he goes in and out of wearing his face mask down, Lord Helmet, the Darth Vader character, and picking it up to talk to people. It just depends on the mood he's trying to get across. So he immediately gets pissed off, lifts his helmet, and says, "Careful, you idiot! I said across her nose, not the top of it." And immediately, this is like where I think it got me. The gunner turns around and reveals himself as this severely cross-eyed individual. He says, "Sorry, sir, I'm doing my best." and Rick Moranis, and as much as we talk about Gene Wilder, I think Rick Moranis was hilarious in this movie. I think in his own right, his comedic timing and his portrayal of this character, he's immediately got this look of disgust on him. Who made that guy a gunner?
Yes, dude, that line, he delivered it perfectly.
And of course, as the scene continues, another character, so I did, sir. He's my cousin. It's another severely cross-eyed individual, and Helmet then replies, "Who's he?" And his second in command, great here, back and forth here. He's an asshole, sir. I know that. What's his name?
That
is his name, sir. Asshole. Major asshole.
Major asshole, yeah.
Oh man, it's and of course we learned that it's his name. His name is Major Asshole, and we get that great, funny, memorable line from Lord Helmet. I knew it. I knew it. I'm surrounded. What did he say? I knew it. No. First,
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
No, he goes, "How many assholes do we have on this ship anyway?" And then of course the entire crew,
except one guy in the front stage seated.
Really? Because I looked, I was like, because I wanted to, when I went back to
front
the
left,
scene, I'm like, I'm sure, and then I looked at across, and I'm like, the entire fucking crew stands up. I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes. Puts his helmet back on to sound tough, and keep firing, assholes. It's a quick scene, it really is, but it's the delivery of the Rick Moranis in his lines, his back and forth with I don't remember who played his colonel, and then of course
George Weiner.
Thank you, George Weiner, and of course the two small roles played by one is Major Asshole and Philip Asshole, first class Philip Asshole. the two of course, playing severely cross-eyed individuals. But like I said, I think for the moment, like he turned and said, "Sorry, sir, I'm doing my best," and he said, like, I was gone. I remember being gone, and I think what's funny about it is obviously about not just what's written, but we all kind of have that moment in life where we're all like, we're pissed off with our situation at work or whatever. Everybody's pissing us off. And we all say this to ourselves. "I'm surrounded by assholes." I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes. So it's one of my favorite lines from the movie. Of course, favorite scenes. This movie, like Blazing Saddles, like Young Frankenstein, like all of them, have so many memorable scenes. This is just one in particular. I love the whole, I probably could have also selected the ludicrous speed.
Yes,
I mean,
ludicrous
that whole,
speed's hilarious.
and that's probably
Buckle this. Sorry, you should buckle yourself. Buckle this. Fucking Rick Moranis. I can't believe he was a dad in what was it?
Honey, I Shrunk
the Kids.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, dude.
Yeah.
And was a football movie that we love, Joseph.
Little Giants.
Little Giants.
Love
Like, I
that
can't
movie.
believe, like, that's not that's the Rick Moranis I know from Spaceballs, the asshole from Spaceballs. No, sir, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
Another great scene.
We had talked about how Mel Brooks has the talent of making very smart humor and very dumb humor. This joke shouldn't have worked. This is like, if you read the script,
it doesn't work in today's.
Yeah,
it'd be considered lame and stupid.
It would be considered lame and stupid, and it probably was on the script. But the fact that Mel Brooks was crafting it, and Rick Moranis, and give credit to George Weiner too, because he did awesome work in this movie. If you watch this scene, just keep your eye on Rick Moranis the whole time, because I know he doesn't have all the dialogue, but he has the bulk of it. But his reactions are incredible, and it shouldn't have been as funny. But Rick Moranis and George Weiner, they just make it work. And the cross-eyed guy, Philip Asshole, Major Asshole, they all just made it work, right? This movie came out in the summer before I was going into 5th grade. And I knew two reasons why I knew two reasons why I had to watch it. It's Mel Brooks and it's a Star Wars parody. If you didn't watch this movie in the summer, you were left out, because that's all the 5th grade class was talking about. Have you seen Spaceballs? Have you seen Spaceballs? I'm sorry. I showed this movie to my son about 2 years ago, and this was the exact scene where my wife, Jessica, was like, okay, that's enough. I told her I don't remember any bad words in this movie, but she had the mental counter on this scene, and she was like Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. Say asshole one more time, and we're turning it off. And of course, there's one asshole's too many. We had to turn it off so my kid couldn't watch it anymore, but he could watch it today.
It's fucking funny. Ryan was asking me, hey, my son, like, what are you gonna do? Oh, we're gonna do the Mel Brooks show tonight, best scene. And he was like, I go, he's the one that did Young Frankenstein and Spaceballs. He's like, oh, that movie, I love that movie. It's funny. And I go, what's your favorite scene? He goes, oh, I can't say it in front of Vanessa. I was like, is it the asshole scene? He's like, yes. I was like, your Uncle Joseph chose that scene too.
See, I mean, that scene spans generations, right? So this movie made $38 million against a $22.7 million budget, but I don't think it was the success people had anticipated to be. Of course, it's memorable now. It's a cult classic, just like many of Mel Brooks's movies that weren't as successful in the box office, but made their life on VHS, Blu-ray, DVD, whatever the case was. George Lucas got a chance to read the screenplay before production began, and he loved it so much that he decided to have his special effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, help make this movie. He said as long as there wasn't any merchandise. That's why you see Yogurt and the Dinks doing all the merchandise. It's a joke that George Lucas didn't want him selling anything.
Did you hear what also George Lucas was like? You have this character. He's based off of Han Solo. He's like, as long as he doesn't look like Han Solo, we're good. So Mel Brooks had him dressed like Indiana Jones. That was a fucking joke. And George Lucas was probably like, motherfucker, like he did it on, like, he's just so smart. Like, who thinks of that shit? He can be the Han Solo character, but he can't dress like Han Solo. And Mel Brooks said, no problem, I got you, George. And he fucking dressed him like Indiana Jones on purpose.
Of course, probably the whole the Spaceballs of this and Spaceballs of that.
Yeah, Spaceballs a t-shirt. Spaceballs a lunchbox.
I loved how Colonel Sanders got to rent Spaceballs before the movie finished. It's funny because Steve Martin was the original.
Scene too. Yeah.
That's a great scene. Steve Martin was the original choice for that role, but George Weiner, give it up to him. He held his own. I thought he was great.
Fantastic.
He was great. Yeah,
a very big part in that movie. He did.
I think like he was such a good complimentary actor to Rick Moranis. Mick Moranis was so good and so loud, and so like his character was just so good. I think if you had Steve Martin, it would have taken away from some of his lines.
I think so.
You'd be looking at Steve Martin while Rick Moranis was giving his line, instead of looking at Rick Moranis. That, like you said, that scene where he like turns real quickly to who made that man a gunner, like that fucking look that he gives him, that reaction. Like, would you have caught that reaction and that look? If Steve Martin was the guy that he was talking to? You might not. You might have missed it. So I think they nailed it on the casting. I think they did.
Brooks also tried to get either Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise for Lone Star. Hanks in 1987, I can't see. Cruise would have dialed it up way too much intensity for this movie. For John Candy, no, I don't think he would have melded very well. Yeah. It was they got I'm sorry, his name. Now I'm forgetting names.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman. I think he was a stage actor that that they found, or they saw him in a movie or something. I think it was Mel Brooks' wife, Anne Bancroft, who suggested that casting.
It was perfect. It was
yeah,
perfect.
he was great.
Yeah,
he was great.
The scenes between him and Candy, like I
Yeah,
mean, just
great.
like there's so much.
Oh, John
And
Candy
of course,
is so
yeah.
good. Yeah, I love that there are so many big personalities and big jokes, and John Candy had just the sweet, simple, subtle jokes. And there's, what did he order? He ordered the special. That's what I ordered. Change mine to the soup. I love that when the alien pops out of his stomach.
Yeah. Get this guy some Pepto-Bismol.
Another fucking memorable
Water
line
my
there.
ass.
What about Michael Winslow from the Police Academy movies?
Of
Mel
course,
Brooks.
yeah.
Mel Brooks is like,
I love how Rick Moranis gets pissed off. He's still making the noise. Rick Moranis fucking rips the phone off the computer. I'm pissed off. Like, who can do that? Rick Moranis like sold that shit 100%. Like, it's just something so stupid.
No, I mean, and I'm just like remembering his introduction, the whole entrance scene where everybody's like, he's walking down, the corridor, and the crew's all like terrified of him. He's just, little guy coming. He gets to the camera. I can't breathe in this thing.
Yeah, it's just a great introduction to the Lord helmet. I love that. Okay, but let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
What is that German guy? What is that his soldier say to him? He said,
Yeah,
a helmet.
I think he said.
Rick Moranis looks at him like, what the fuck did he tell me? You know
think
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I looked it up too because I wanted to talk about that. Just that one.
What does he say?
I
He
looked
says
it up.
something like in German.
People type it out as Jahal, which like Jawohl. So
you know what we're talking about, Ren?
I do know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it's a fucking
He's
funny,
like, I'll
super
handle
subtle
this
scene where Rick
personally.
Moranis looks at him like, what the fuck?
He like walks
What
away.
did he say to me?
Speaking of Rick Moranis,
Of course, reactions.
I cannot praise Rick Moranis enough. He was the MVP of this film. Rick Moranis had an 11-year run from 1983 to 1994, where if you were a kid or a young adult in that era, this was the guy. He was your go-to nerd, little jerk, your go-to dad. He had the market cornered on like 3 or 4 specific characters, and he seemed like such a sincere guy. I'm sure working with him was like working with Gene Wilder for Mel Brooks. I remember Mel Brooks had a lot of praise for Rick Moranis in this movie. In any other hands, this scene could tank, but Rick Moranis' confusion, his disgust, his anger, it makes this scene hilarious. He's my cousin is a hilarious line because, of course, nepotism always a big thing in Hollywood, so this gag cuts deeper than most people would think. Who's this guy? He's an asshole, sir. I know. What's his name? I mean, just great lines. Keep firing assholes when he ends with that. Just great. It's a fun scene. If anything, it makes me miss Rick Moranis more than anything. What do you think, Bob?
Again, such a subtle in like simple in dumb joke, but the way they sell it, dude, they sell it so well, and it's so fucking funny, dude. So fucking funny. Like, it reminds me of another scene that's in there. Rick Moranis he's saying, they said to comb the desert. We're not taking it literally. Comb the desert. And it's 2 black guys with the Afro pick in the sand. Did you guys find anything yet? And he's like, we ain't found shit. But like, so fucking funny. The line, the way they deliver it, and that they're using an Afro pick, like everybody's using a comb, and they're using a fucking, like, it's so stupid. It's stupid. It's so, you shouldn't laugh at, like, it shouldn't be funny, but it is the way it's delivered, the way it's shown, like the way they do it. Keep firing, assholes. Like, I love that. But the best, the part that sells it, it's not how many assholes I got in this thing. That was funny. But when Rick Moranis turns quickly, he's like, who made that man a gunner? Like, that made me fucking laugh nonstop because, Rick Moranis is a smaller stature, and to see the smaller, like, angry Napoleon looking fucker, like talking shit to everybody, like, it's amazing, dude. I think it's really, really, really funny. It's a great scene. That movie is like, when I watch Young Frankenstein, I smile and I laugh throughout it, and it's just like, it's a special movie for me. Blazing Saddles, I'm like killed over laughing because there's so many fucked up and funny scenes. And then Spaceballs, I hadn't watched it in so long. When I watched it 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, I'm sorry, with my kid, like, I was laughing at crap load. I was like, dude, I forgot how funny this damn movie was, how stupid and how funny, and the way they take shots at Star Wars and Star Trek, and just the stupid jokes, man. I bet she gives great helmet. Like, that line is just so stupid, just so fucking funny. This is a great movie. It's a great pick, Joseph.
How come nobody told me that my ass was so big?
Like how he fucking scratches it before. And Snotty beat me up twice yesterday. It was magnificent. What did you say?
If it was Terry Garr for you, it was Daphne Zuniga for me.
Oh yeah, Daphne Zuniga was great. She was another one that they discovered from a previous movie. I can't remember, but they had other big name actresses. but they went with Daphne Zuniga, and she was amazing.
She was in that movie. She was in that movie with I don't know. It probably came out after this. She was in that movie with Cusack.
Let me see. She was in
The Shirt Thing. Well, she was in The Shirt Thing before Spaceballs with Cusack.
That's the movie they discovered.
That's
her
probably
on.
what it was. Yeah. And I saw that movie, and she was it's your lesser 80s rom-com.
They were all kind of lesser.
Yeah,
lesser than 16
but she was good.
Yeah, she was great. Actually, like Mel Brooks loved her so much, he produced The Fly 2 and recommended that she have the starring role in that movie. So Daphne Zuniga had a great effect to many people, and of course, young men at the time as well. So, guys, speaking of Spaceballs,
I thought you were going to say, speaking of young men.
Speaking of Spaceballs, Spaceballs 2 is in the works, guys. Mel Brooks is producing, Josh Gad is starring. Your thoughts on this?
Look, before you talk negatively, I mean, yes, like it's hard to make sequels. I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen 3 episodes of History of the World Part 2, and it's different, but it's still fucking funny, man, and it's still Mel Brooks. Like, is it going to be the original? No. Is the comedy going to be different? Probably. Like, the way it is, I think it's an updated version. But, I mean, I'm still going to watch anything that Mel Brooks touches or films or writes or produces. Like, I'm going to be a part of it because, we don't have many years left with him, I don't believe.
Yeah,
he's a bit older. So if they do pull this movie off and they do produce it, like, I'm going to keep an open mind and I'm going to watch it because it's Mel Brooks.
Josh Gad I do find him funny. I think
Josh
he's a good
Gad,
actor.
yeah.
I do think he does comedy and drama or serious roles very well. And I think I think Josh Gad, as far as his comedic shtick or whatever in characters that he's played, I think he obviously would have looked at a Mel Brooks. I knew he did a movie with Adam Sandler. He did a Pixels with Adam Sandler, which I thought was a good movie, even though it didn't do good at the box office.
What's the movie he did with Jake Gyllenhaal and what's her name? The drug movie?
The one about Viagra.
Yeah. I thought he was great in that one.
He was great.
Too.
He was with
right.
Anne Hathaway. Yeah,
Anne Hathaway, beautiful Anne Hathaway. Never mind, I choose Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, Anne Hathaway.
He's also great in The Rocker with Dwight from Rainn Wilson. Yeah.
Yes. I'm a fan of it. So if Josh Gad is going to do it, okay, cool. I have faith in it, I guess, if you want to call it that. And of course, as long as we got Mel Brooks, is Moranis attached to it, or?
I don't think so. I looked at his IMDb. I didn't see it upcoming.
I mean, but
they don't have it listed yet.
They don't list it yet. Like Bill Pullman's still around. He can still do something with it, dude. I mean, I hope they do. It'd be really nice if you could do one last little hurrah. That would be something sweet to do, something cool to do. I mean, will it be the same? No, but will I give a shit either? No, I just want to see. I want to see something from Mel Brooks, man.
Yeah. Love and Other Drugs was that movie we were trying to
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's a really good movie. Really good movie.
Guys, is there any actor out there that you wish you could have seen collaborate with Mel Brooks?
Maybe Carrey.
Jim Carrey. I like it. Yeah.
Jim Carrey. Oh man, maybe that could have possibly worked. Yeah. Adam Sandler. I think you could do something really well with him. It's like smart comedy and like quick hitters.
I'd say that's where a lot of Adam Sandler probably gets his influence.
Yeah.
George Carlin did Dogma, but if George Carlin ever did something for Mel Brooks, I think that could have worked out really, really well as well.
Let me throw a name out at you guys because this is a guy who's known.
You say The Rock, I swear to God.
No, not The Rock. Dana Carvey. I don't think he's done very good movies other than The Wayne's World, but he's
Am I not fertile enough for you?
I think Dana Carvey would be good. And I know you guys are going to skewer me for this one. I think Will Ferrell would be good with Mel Brooks.
Oh man, I don't know.
I don't even like his cameo on the new season of The Boys.
Yeah, no shit. Oh man, I don't know, man.
Messing with you on that one.
I like Bill Burr. Bill Burr could be a good one.
Bill Burr would be good.
Hilarious. Yeah, he's really smart in his comedy, and he's kind of abrasive too at times too. And I think that fits his extremely well.
Here's one out of nowhere. Just
Nev
because
Campbell.
Just because I saw Ricky Stenicki. I think if Mel Brooks wrote anything for so outlandish or over the top for Cena, that he would do it. He would do it.
Yeah.
He would do it fully and fully committed, whatever Mel Brooks told him to do.
Not known for her acting, but I think Nikki Glaser would be great. I would love to see her in a Mel Brooks film.
You know what,
I wonder why
that's an
Jerry
interesting-
Seinfeld never came out in any of his stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was kind of
Yeah.
after the fact, but I mean, a little cameo here or there, Robin Hood Men in Tights, something. You would think maybe, but
Yeah, I mean Chappelle was like 18, 19
yeah.
years old.
yeah, Chappelle was really young.
Yeah.
That's another scene. Watch my back. Your back got hit twice.
Twice. That's my name, man, not you.
White man can't jump. Yeah.
I love that line.
So guys, final thoughts on Mel Brooks.
He's a generational talent. Yeah, late 60s. You got, but it's definitely 70s, 80s, 90s. Like all of these people.
Sorry.
It's all of these generations enjoying what this guy brought to the table and what he gave us. And you just got to enjoy it and take what we can. And I don't want to say things of that. Like, I try not to say, the word like, but yeah, one of the best.
Well, his type of comedy is it's a dying breed. He's a dying breed of comedy actors, writers, producers, directors. I think that they don't make them like that anymore, and it's a crying shame because the man is a genius, and he is a good-hearted, sweet, great person. From all the documentaries and everything I've seen about him and his relationship with Gene Wilder and his wife and a lot of the things that people say about him, man, he's just an amazing person and a very smart and caring and hilarious individual. And his type of comedy is something we people don't get nowadays. You know what I mean? But I would hope that generation after generation would appreciate it, going forward. Because I know, like, my grandparents and my parents and me, and now even my kid can appreciate or have appreciated his movies. I'm sorry, and I would just hope that he wouldn't be forgotten because times have changed. Because comedy's different. People are sensitive, or people are particular about things. People are very political. Blah 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 blah. I hope that his kind of comedy will live on because it should, because it's some of the best that have ever seen and probably will ever see.
The reason I'm so happy that Josh Gad is doing Spaceballs, because Josh Gad has, he has clout, especially with the younger generation. He does a lot of movies that are very hip. He's even done Frozen, and I'm glad that somebody with Josh Gad's clout is carrying on this legacy and including Mel Brooks, and we know he's doing the TV show History of the World. I think that the more that we see Mel Brooks, in these, I don't want to say final years, but he's 98 years old. He's still sharp as hell. He's still funny as hell. And the more that we celebrate him, talk about him, and work with him, we know that his comedy is already going to expand generations. But it's going to continue because there's a lot of people who still appreciate him. That's why I'm so thankful for guys like Adam Sandler, Josh Gad, and all these other comedians who, wish them a happy birthday on Instagram because they love Mel Brooks as much as we do. This show was exactly what we knew it was going to be, throwing quotes, laughing, because Mel Brooks, he does that for us. He makes us laugh. We didn't talk about his partnership with Carl Reiner or working for Sid Caesar or his fairy tale romance with Anne Bancroft, who, by the way, introduced him to Gene Wilder because they were in a play together called Mother Courage. I think she suggested Gene Wilder for the role of Leo Bloom in The Producers. And there's a sweet story where Mel Brooks gives Gene Wilder the script. The script was called Springtime for Hitler, and Gene loved it, but it took him years to finally get greenlit. And when Mel Brooks told him, hey, we're going to film this, he said that, Gene Wilder just broke down crying. It's a very sweet story. And we didn't talk about how Mel Brooks created a great TV show called Get Smart. He had a career that spanned over 7 decades. He was the master. He still is the master of farces and parodies. And 3 of his films, guys, are included in the American Film Institute's top 100 comedies of the past 100 years, from 1900 to 2000, all of which were ranked in the top 15. Blazing Saddles at number 6, The Producers at number 11, and Young Frankenstein at number 13. I don't know how much longer we will have him around, but with his films and his legacy, he will never leave. I cannot wait to show my kids his films. And just an amazing
Maybe
person.
Not Blazing Saddles until they get older.
Yeah, that'll be one like where I'm like...
Yeah, we're older. They're old enough to know right from... Yeah, that's good.
Great show, guys. We love Mel Brooks, man. So happy to talk about him.
That's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up and let us know what your favorite Mel Brooks movie scene is. Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com and follow us on all forms of social media by searching for Formidable Opponents. We want to thank Creative Little Pill for her great artwork. Please follow her on Instagram at Creative Little Pill. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on any podcast platform you're listening to us on. Also, as we mentioned, new on Buzzsprout, you can send us a text. You can choose to remain anonymous or add your name for a shout out on our next episode.
Add your name. Let's have a conversation.
You can find that option at the top of the show notes. And join us next episode where we will be talking about best female lead singer of the 90s. So for Bob and Joseph, we'll see y'all next week.
And may the Schwartz be with you. What a world.